Hi everyone, welcome to the second part of this vlog. So I'm here to tell you welcome and that I hope you enjoy this vlog. I will go directly into the last day of the Readathon and also the final review and thoughts on all of the books. I hope you enjoy and let's get into it. So it's now the next day again, third day of the Readathon, and I'm back with my Christmas jumper on, hoping that today I will actually read Christmas books. Yesterday I started, as I said I would, Tied Up in Tinsel, and I'm really enjoying it. I've read 50 pages. I was so enjoying Sherlock Holmes that I just continued doing things around, like cleaning the house, making lunch and dinner, instead of picking up a physical book. And so I did end up finishing the casebook of Sherlock Holmes, but I did only read 50 pages of this one, which is okay, because I have today to finish reading that. In terms of the casebook of Sherlock Holmes, when I finish that, it means now that I finished the whole of the Sherlock Holmes stories. And I'm really happy with that. I'm actually quite proud because I listened to the whole bind up read by Stephen Fry, and that was like 72 hours worth of audiobook. And I read it all throughout, I would say, these last 6 months. And I really enjoyed it. I've had the best time just discovering all of the original, Sherlock Holmes stories, because as we all know, there have been so many adaptations throughout the years, and there will be so many more, that I really wanted to know what the canon for all of those was. And I have to say that this last one is one of my favorites. So my two favorites are The Hound of the Baskervilles and The Casebook of Sherlock Holmes. After that, I have The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes and The Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. Then after that, it's The Return of Sherlock Holmes and His Last Bow, which are also 2 collections of short stories. And finally, the other 3 novels. I feel like probably The Valley of Fear is above the other 2. Unfortunately, my favorites are not the novels, apart from The Hound of the Baskervilles. I know that the way they're written is quite interesting and quite new for the time, and throughout the whole of the stories they mention quite different interesting topics that weren't really talked about at that time. But I have to say I do prefer the short stories, because even if it has something that I'm not so interested in, the next story or even elements of that one are going to be interesting. And because it's so short, it's over quite quickly, and you have more opportunity to like the majority of stories. While in the novels, I love the first part, and I love that they're incorporating different topics for the time and stories that come from other parts of the world, so to open the eyes of the British public. But at the same time, I feel like I just want my Sherlock Holmes stories to be based in the UK. The 3 that my least favorite, those 3, half of the story is spent here, talking about the outcome of these people's lives, and then you go back to learn about the past, which is an amazing way to tell a story. Unfortunately, the themes mentioned and the locations they go to are not really what I want from a Sherlock Holmes story. And I rambled for hours about Sherlock Holmes, but at least I said all of my thoughts. It's all out there. But yes, moving on to this one. Weirdly, I do think it really fits with having read so many Sherlock Holmes stories in the past 2 days. So I'm having difficulty understanding when this is set. I'm not sure if it's set when it came out or a lot earlier. It doesn't tell me anything, or at least for now, but it has the feel. If I had to guess, I would say it's probably set in the UK after the turn of the century and after at least First World War. But it's about a very rich man, and he lost his estate a few generations ago. But since then, they have rebuilt their fortune, and so he managed to acquire the estate again. And he's now trying to revive it. He, for some reason, has decided to employ a whole staff of murderers. They're one-time murderers, all of them, and for different reasons. And he has employed them all, and he really believes that they are changed and that it only happened for accident or a momentary lapse in judgment. Hopefully that's true. We'll have to see. But we are following a painter that has been employed by this rich man, and she is kind of telling what she's been experiencing throughout these days that she's been staying at his house. And she will be spending Christmas with his family there as well, which I think is when we'll have a murder. She has presented all of the characters. Even the rich guy has also presented some of the characters, because obviously she doesn't know all of them. Actually, she didn't know any of them before going to this house. We're just kind of getting to know not only the characters, but the house, and I'm really enjoying it. Hopefully the murder will happen soon, because now all of the characters have arrived and they're starting to get to know one another. My plans for this afternoon are to just sit on the sofa and read. Oh, I almost forgot to mention that I did start another audiobook, because my idea was to just reserve these 3 days to sit down and read. Literally do nothing else, be a couch potato for 3 days straight. But unfortunately, work kind of messed that up, and so I have been listening to audiobooks, as I've told you, every morning for these 3 days. And today, because I had finished all of the Sherlock Holmes, I started The Stardust Thief, and I'm really enjoying it. I think I listened to maybe 3 hours of it, and I will get into details about it later on, because I don't have the synopsis here with me now. But I will tell you in a bit. I'll do a catch-up. But yeah, I'll see you in a bit. I'll now make some lunch, sit down to eat, continue to read, and then I'll update you in a bit. Hi, so it's a little bit later. I've had my lunch. I made a tea. Haven't really read that much Tied Up in Tinsel, so I'm not going to update you on that. You knew I was going to be reading this afternoon. But the Stardust Thief I haven't actually talked about at all, and I've been reading it throughout this whole morning, and so I'm now here to update you. Basically, the Stardust Thief is a young adult fantasy about a girl that is a criminal. She's a merchant. Also, she gets magical items and then sells them to the highest bidder in a kind of underground merchant's hall. And she then encounters a prince in disguise that needs saving, and so she saves him and then kind of gets wrapped up into this djinn business. Something else I forgot to mention, she has a djinn bodyguard / friend that has been with her for some time. We don't really know yet how long they've been traveling and living together. But yeah, so I've read around 3 hours. All of this that I've told you has happened, and she is making a deal with the Sultan to go find an item that he wants to acquire. She is kind of being blackmailed into this because obviously she's a criminal. So in case she doesn't do it, she gets thrown into prison, which obviously she doesn't want. So she's going to be going on this quest with, I think, the Sultan's oldest son. Maybe someone else will accompany them. I'm not sure yet. And I'm really enjoying it. It's, for now, an interesting young adult fantasy. Nothing major has kind of come up. I am quite enjoying it. All I really have to say about this book for now. Hopefully I'll continue reading it. We'll see when I give you the next update. But for now, I am gonna just stay here. It's getting really dark, as you can see by the image in front of you. And so I'm just gonna continue reading Tied Up in Tinsel, and I hope to at least make my way through quite a bit of this. And I'm loving just sitting on the sofa, drinking teas, and just being immersed in stories. Good morning. Welcome to the end of the vlog. It's been a couple of days, so it's now Monday morning. I'm here to update you on how the reading went throughout this small readathon that I had Thursday and Friday of last week. I started the Wednesday by running some errands and listening to Sherlock Holmes, and I finished His Last Bow, which is the 8th novel or 8th collection of stories in the original stories. I then finished Wild is the Witch that evening by Rachel Griffin. I had 220 pages left and I finished them all in the first evening. And I've already gave my final thoughts on that. The next morning, I also had some work to do at home. And so I ended up reading the last Sherlock Holmes stories, which is the casebook of Sherlock Holmes. And I actually ended up not really sitting down to read until like 5 to 6 o'clock in the evening. So I spent the whole day just listening to the audiobook and doing things around the house, working. I already gave my thoughts on both of the Sherlock Holmes stories in depth throughout the video. And then on that evening, I started Tied Up in Tinsel by Ngaio Marsh. I ended up just reading like 50 pages on the first evening, but I really enjoyed those 50 pages. And then on Friday, I also... It was supposed to be 3 days of just reading, but it ended up that I had a few things to do, and so I worked most of the time and sat down to read during the evenings and a little bit in the afternoon. But I did, as I said before, I did read audiobooks throughout the 3 days in the mornings and afternoons. On Friday, I then had finished all of my Sherlock Holmes stories. So I just picked up the other unread book that I had on my Audible, and that was The Stardust Thief. And I ended up reading around 150 pages of that on the Friday morning, afternoon. Went back to Tied Up in Tinsel at the end of the day and read 90 pages. I then, on the Saturday and Sunday, I didn't really read that much. It wasn't really part of the readathon, but I did end up reading 40 pages more on my audiobook. And so it brings the total of pages to, if you take out the last 40 pages that I read throughout the weekend, it brings the count to 1,050. And if you count those ones, 1,100, or around those numbers, obviously. I feel really proud of what I did. I knew I could read 300 pages per day easily. And I read a bit more than that, which makes me quite happy. It wasn't as productive as I thought I could be, because if I can read 300 pages non-working day, I could definitely read more than that. So having stayed around 300 pages each day, really not that productive. But I did end up having a lot of work to do, so you know what, that's fine. Now, on to the summaries, what I thought and my ratings. The two Sherlock Holmes, I would give them, actually, His Last Bow, I think I gave it around 4 stars. Then The Kiss Book of Sherlock Holmes, 4.5. Wild is the Witch, I think I gave it around 4 stars. It was a good book. It just wasn't brilliant. And then Tied Up in Tinsel, I'm halfway through. I'm actually quite excited to sit down probably this evening and make my way through another chunk of this, because the mystery hasn't quite heated up yet. What I was expecting to happen early in the book hasn't really happened. We're halfway through and now I'm questioning if it will even happen. But I am really enjoying it. I have described this multiple times to some people as being a quirky little book. The characters, they crack me up, honestly. It's not what I was expecting for now, at least. But I am actually quite excited to continue reading that. I feel like it has the old-timey vibes, you know. They still haven't said anything about when it's set. By the references they've been giving, I think it is set when it was published, or at least a little bit before that, which is 1972. I feel like it could be set a lot earlier because of the way they behave. But yeah, because the characters are so quirky, I'm really enjoying it. Honestly, it just makes me smile looking at this. I feel like you're not filming me anymore, are you? No. So, my battery died, sorry. I was saying that I was enjoying the plot. It wasn't what I expected. I think it's intriguing. And the language used just makes it all the more interesting. I want to sit down and continue and kind of research more about it. I would recommend, or at least for now. And now let's get on to the last book that I want to talk about, which is The Stardust Thief. Last time I updated you, I was right around the time when they were going on the quest, when they were kind of deciding the last things to do with the quest to then leave. I'm now almost halfway through the book and they are definitely on the quest already. Things have happened. I'm not disliking it whatsoever, but I feel like I was expecting more. I heard very good things about this book. It is falling into tropes, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I will definitely update you on Instagram, and you can always follow me on Goodreads to see what I'm reading. I guess that's it. I've rambled enough. I've been interrupted 2 times. Hopefully you want to come back and listen to me ramble some more next time. Hopefully you're enjoying my cozy vlogs. Thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed filming this. It wasn't exactly what I was expecting it to be or what I wanted it to be, but I'm actually quite okay. I'm feeling okay about the end result. So thank you so much for your support over Instagram and here. And I hope you continue to support me. So thank you very much. And I hope you have a nice day. Thank you.